Roadhog is one of, if not the most despised designs in Overwatch, and possibly even any game ever. In this video, I'm going to look at what about Roadhog's current iteration is so inherently foul and so broken. I will provide hopefully some constructive criticism towards his design, and I hope you all can gain an understanding of why everyone hates Roadhog. I cannot talk about Roadhog without mentioning the hook, the whole reason someone would even ever play Hog. This is such a vital part of his hero identity and ultimately ends up being his Hamasha. Firstly, what makes Hook feel so unfun to play against, ignoring the rest of his kit? CC is never enjoyable in any form, even when it's necessary. It's still unfun. We like pressing buttons, we like being able to move, that's just how it is. Now this CC not only briefly stuns you, it also displaces you possibly 20 meters. Regardless if being hooked was warranted, this is simply unfun for the player. No one wants to be yoinked across the map ever. Furthermore, if we take into consideration Roadhog's entire kit, we then stumble onto another issue. He can one-shot. I'll break down the weapon a bit later, but for now, a hook into a shotgun blast is a 2-for-1 deal of pain and misery. Even if a hero is super weak, if this exists, it will be hated no matter what. That's just the cold hard truth. There's no way around it. Let's move away from Hook briefly here and have a look at Hog's sustain tool. Take a Breather is an incredibly powerful resource, able to heal you at any time for just a little resource cost, and on top of that you get damage reduction. Now, I'm not claiming this is a broken ability strength and balance wise. I'm just trying to paint the picture of how an ability like this feels. Alright, so he has a huge sustain tool. So what? Every tank needs some form of sustain, like I said earlier. That could either be damage mitigation, shield, giving you health, movement, whatever it may be. Where Take a Breather falls flat for me is generally just how bland of a sustain tool healing is. Like, what it is he just gets healed a lot, essentially. And, like, that's just kind of boring design, but obviously it's not the worst thing ever to be a bit boring, but I do wish it was a little more interesting, and maybe a hot take here, but I think design-wise, this type of mitigation and sustain shouldn't be on a resource. I get that some other forms of mitigation and sustain are resources like Hazard, Reinhardt, stuff like that, but I feel healing plus damage reduction is not a resource style ability and would most likely be something more similar to a Junker Queen Shout or Orisa Gold. Junker Queen Shout oddly is probably the best way of doing it, possibly with like a little ramp up time on that. So you would pop it and then over the course of the next few seconds you would get a source of healing, and during that time period you took less damage. Something like that. That way you're still in the fight, you're still able to do things, but it doesn't feel like you just have this resource that you have to keep healing from. Now, circling back to the main point, Take a Breather is an annoyance in a poor kit, but it's not the flawed thing that makes his kit bad. Let's move on. I want to briefly talk about his weapon because there are some major points here. I've mostly focused on why it sucks to play against him, but I think his weapon attributes to why he's unfun to play as well as against. Shotguns are fun, but let's be blunt, you need a gap close with shotguns, you just do. Reaper has Lifesteal, Wraith, and TP, all supporting his shotgun playstyle. So Roadhog essentially spends most of his time firing random alternate fire shots, hoping to hit them, which, I mean, if he does, they do quite a lot of damage if they're you know, it's the perfect range and it's a perfectly aimed shot. But he's mostly just waiting until he can land a hook, and then, and only then, can his shotgun actually feel effective. This leads to what I would call swing gameplay. It's absolutely nothingness, and then suddenly a massive spike in value. This swingy style can work, but it kind of needs to be compressed a little bit. It shouldn't be nothing and then everything. It should just kind of more of be a little less stuff and a lot more stuff. Like a little, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're still able to play the game, but you're not doing that much. And then suddenly you're doing a lot, but it's not unstoppable. That type of thing. This can make it very frustrating to play Hog because you are bound to the mercy of your hook accuracy. And playing against him sucks because you forget that he can just instantly kill you, because for the last 20 seconds he hasn't done a single thing. This is super important and genuinely is an under talked about reason for Roadhog's failures. Now, let me just cover some general playstyle annoyances. I have some things I'm just going to spew out, and I am sorry if it lacks as much depth as previous points, but let's go. Massive hitbox means he's an easy target. Bullet sponge, people love shooting him, so then he needs a sustain tool. He has no actual mitigation apart from just taking less raw damage, so he kind of gets slapped around a lot. But all this feels so irrelevant, because when you do hook one-shot someone, you are suddenly back to being the king. That's how I would summarize the Roadhog experience. You get slapped around, everyone keeps shooting you, take a bunch of damage, so you need a huge sustain tool, but then you also need to do things, so you get a one-shot, and then boom, now everything feels amazing and great because you've got a one-shot. It's like gambling. Only fun when you win. Okay, I've done this before, but I want to go a bit further here with Makoa from Paladins. He is that game's hook character. Why do I think he works better though? Bear in mind, even though Paladins and Overwatch are fairly, similar, Paladins is still vastly different, especially with the health balls and the atomization of that game. So it is still very different, so I understand that nuance will be lost here, but it's still a good baseline for a well-designed hero. Let's compare and contrast the two. Makoa has a long-ranged arcing projectile that deals consistent damage. Makoa has the same style of hook. He has a mobility cooldown that can be used disruptively for damage and as an escape. He has a shield for sustain instead of just raw healing. And the ultimate, which I don't really touch on for Hog, makes him into a really tanky melee guy. It's nothing crazy. The ultimate can probably just stay in Paladins, but I thought I'd mention it. What about that makes Makoa's hook work and this hero work? Well, there's no one-shot. Actually has a neutral game and some poke viable options, with his gun. Has a mobility option that allows for aggressive or defensive play. And he doesn't rely on huge healing to stay alive. He's able to actually use a shield and play around that shield. These are all good things. Trust me, these are so much more fairer and nicer for the game's health. You want your character to be fun, interactive, and something that's key about Makoa is that Makoa he's not fun just because you can hit hook. He's fun because you're able to hit this long-ranged arcing projectile, and it's really fun and satisfying to get more long-ranged poke out of it. Obviously, in a game like Overwatch, tanks probably shouldn't have 0 fall-off weapons. It just shouldn't be a thing, but you could make it arc, and then at like 20, 30 meters, maybe even shorter, it just insta-cuts off. That would work very well in Overwatch. What do I want for Roadhog? I've made a little list, so bear with me. No one-shot, not even a one-shot combo. I don't want pig pen back, I don't want hook, shoot, melee. I don't want a one-shot combo. Nothing that insta-kills anyone. A focus on disruption and displacement. Realistically, if you were to hook someone, they're probably going to die anyway because your team can just follow up and they're just out of place. But if we focus on this fact that he's able to disrupt people, that would be really, really good. More neutral game options, and things to do when he's not hooking people. A much more fair feed and sustain option that also doesn't just get instantly shut down by Arnonade. And honestly, that's it. He doesn't need to be perfect, we just need to make him a little better. I mean, I've even seen some hook options where you do something that someone mentioned, where if you hook someone, it tethers them to you, so they're stuck with you and you're stuck with them type of thing, and that could be interesting. You could do sort of a league style hook, even though those are quite annoying. You've got thresh hook, where if you hook someone, you have the option to recast to pull them fairly close, or you can physically drag them. Could be interesting. You could do a Nautilus hook where it pulls you to the person. Still the same problem, because if they go in, they can still gap close and kill you, but the Hog Protester think a little smarter about whether or not he wants to basically int himself into people. I think there's a lot more they can do with Hog that they aren't doing. I think Hook could be a much more fun cooldown. I think it could have mobility. It could be you hook somewhere and it pulls you there. Things like that. There are lots of different options I think you can do with Roadhog, but for some reason they just kept him as a one-shot fat character that just sits there and hooks people. So yeah, I mean, I hope they have some creativity with Roadhog reworks. Hope everyone enjoyed this. I love yapping about hero designs, especially disgusting designs like Hog. Let me know if everything was clear, insightful, there were good ideas, and of course, let me know any ideas or opinions you may have. I'll see you all very soon. Peace out.